All right, welcome everyone. This is Brian Gomez of PastPerfect Software. Today we're working through a webinar on simplifying inventories. Another way we could say this webinar's name is streamlining inventories, trying to make things go faster. My contact information is below, brian@museumsoftware.com, or you can call the support office at 1-800-562-6080. We're also available online at museumsoftware.com. So since we're talking about streamlining or simplifying inventories, the first thing that comes up is time. So as we look at ways to streamline or make the inventory go faster, let's see if I get my slides to work here. All right, so as we work on ways to make this faster, we first have to look at how long does it really take. Now, how long inventories can take varies greatly upon a lot of things, most of which have to do with how your collection is cataloged and how it's placed on shelves. But I've kind of come up with a little bit of an estimate here on how long it takes to do things with those items when you have them, or when you have a list of them. So if you're just updating the inventory date for an item, it's going to be between 5 and 15 seconds per record. If you want to also update location information or status information, you're going to start adding 15 to 30 to 45 seconds per item. If you're going to do a condition report, now that could take another minute or two on top of everything else. And photographing or labeling the item could take another 2 minutes to maybe 5 minutes in order to generate the label, go through the process of actually of writing something on the back of the envelope or whatever it is that you're labeling. So that's sort of my rough estimates of time. Now, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. You know, what's 1 minute, what's 30 seconds, and those things. But if you take a 10,000 item collection, and then you just update the inventory date and the inventory buy information, let's say it's taking you about 10 seconds per record, 10,000 items, you're going to be looking at roughly 4 days worth of work. So if all you're doing is changing the inventory date and the inventory buy, you know, 10,000 item collection, you could do that pretty quickly. Now, what if you have a 10,000 item collection? Well, you get all this stuff that's above, and you also want to get location update, condition update, and photograph the items. Now you're talking about 90 seconds times that 10,000 items, and suddenly your jump goes up to 32 days. All right, before I go any further, let me launch a couple of polls here. I wanted to make sure people were in the classroom first before I launch them. Here's my first one. You can interact with this poll. Coming up now. All right, so how long ago was your last full inventory? Try to give me some feedback on this. All right, I will share these results with you. All right, about 80% in, almost 90% in. We have 118 people in our class so far, so it's taking a little while to tabulate. All right, thanks for the feedback. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and then share the results. So if you take a look at this, it looks like about 53% say a long time or never. If you take a look at all of the numbers together, over 75% say it's been at least 4 years or more. And some people would just rather not say, and I don't blame you. All right, so let me hide that poll, and we're going to launch a second poll. How many items are in your collection is going to be this next poll. Let me launch that real quick. Gives us a decent indication of the size of your organization, or at least the size of your collection. All right, looks like about 90% are in. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and then I'm going to share the results. So looking here, it's between 5 and 50,000 records in people's collections, and a good 16% have no idea how many items they have in their collection. And you're not alone. We hear that all of the time here in the support office. 17% 1 to 5,000 items, and 19% of 50,000 to 100,000 items. So we'll just kind of gear the class to the 100,000 items and less conversation. But you can see so far by my examples that I'm talking about 10,000 items at a time. All right, so I have one more poll for you. And this one is, what percentage of your collection is currently cataloged in your collection management system? For this purpose, I'm sort of assuming that it's PastPerfect, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Choose the best answer here, whether you're 0%, almost nothing, about half, or almost everything, and you have some variability in the middle there. This number is actually surprising me. This is pretty good. All right, we're up to 80%. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and share the results. And I'm really surprised to see this sort of consistency down through the options. It looks like roughly 60 to 70% of us have less than 75% of our collection cataloged. I'm really surprised at the number that has almost everything. Of course, we hardly ever hear that in the support office, that people have almost all of their items cataloged in their collections management software. This webinar is kind of put on for the whole group, whether you have almost nothing in the software or everything in the software. But for those of you who have almost everything in the software, your inventory process is going to be a lot easier. All right, so I'm going to hide that and go back to our PowerPoint presentation. All right, so adding it up, you can see that if we're doing a 10,000 item collection and we're just spending 10 seconds per record, it's going to take us 4 days. We do 90 seconds per record, it's going to take 32 days. All right, next slide. So there's really two ways of saving time with our inventory. One is decrease the number of items that you inventory, and you might be able to do this by effectively doing inventories less often. Maybe instead of the entire collection every year, maybe 1/3 of the collection every 3 years would do the job. And then the other way is to decrease the amount of time you spend on each item. And that's mostly what this webinar is about, trying to streamline the process. Combining both is going to give you the maximum savings of time. Short advice for you is be realistic. If you have 100,000 items and you want to update location updates on all records, and you want the database records to be added to with your found in collection items that you find as you're doing your inventory, and you're going to try to do this with 2 part-time volunteers and yourself, you're talking about 625 working days. So for that 13% of you or so that's up over 100,000 catalog records, your inventory process, if you're trying to do much more than just account for the item, then you're going to have a really long process. Now, you have a staff of 100 people. That's not too bad, only 6.2 hours each. Most of us don't have that kind of staff. All right, so then next slide. Just says we're not going to get it done this year if that's all the resources we have. So we have to make decisions. What do we need to account for, or how often do we need to account for each item? Some organizations, they say, look, there's 3 levels. There's a red level, a yellow level, and a green level. The green level we don't worry too much about. We don't inventory it very frequently at all. The yellow level is a little more often, and then the red level is stuff that has to be inventoried annually. So assigning some sort of a level to the items that need to be inventoried more often can help you cut down on the number of items that you have to inventory each year or each cycle, whatever that cycle is. You could also use random sampling. Random sampling is a way to mathematically get a sample of your collection that you can then inventory to try to speak about the whole. It doesn't help you if you're only random sampling 5% of your collection and one of your items is missing, but it wasn't part of your 5%. However, it is a good alternative if you don't have the resources to do a full inventory, because it will not allow you to add bias to what is being accounted for. The process inventory, I'll use the term process inventory, is an inventory where every time we come in contact with a record, whether we're putting it on exhibit, putting it on loan, doing a condition report, or anything like that, we're also updating the inventory information on that catalog record. So that if over the course of the year of 2012, I put my hands on, let's say, 7,000 artifacts, if I updated their inventory during that year, I might not have to include them on my inventory list, saving me 10 seconds or 20 seconds per item. So process inventory is maybe, and random sampling are ways to augment the required inventory. Also, think about need. What do you need to gather when you're doing when you're doing an inventory? Do you really need to get photographs of the item, or is it just a want to have? Over time, yes, you need to get your photographs into your collections management database so you can see these items without having to go physically identify them. However, maybe you don't need to do that now in order to get this inventory done. And then what this webinar is all about, what technology can make this easier. So I'm going to do a demonstration here showing the quick find, the inventory fields, how inventory history works with PastPerfect. We're going to look at catalog lists. When we get to catalog lists, you're going to hear some beeping going on. Now, these are not my hands. These are somebody else's hands in the office, but that is the device I'm going to be using, and that's the beeping that you're going to hear. It's scanning the barcode. Now, when I'm going through and doing this beeping, all the barcode wand is doing is it's acting like the number pad on the keyboard, which is just typing in the numbers it finds. In this case, I think that thing says 2000.1.4 is the object ID that the barcode is reading. I'll show typing it in, but I'll also show scanning it with a barcode. I had some questions already about whether many of these options are included in the basic program or if you have to buy upgrades for them. Things like the barcode printing, like that label has a barcode printed on it, that is an optional upgrade for PastPerfect. That barcode printing upgrade is available as part of the inventory manager. But many of the things I'm going to show you today, you don't even need to have the inventory manager in order to make them work. And I'll try to point out those places where the differences lie, but you don't need to necessarily have it in order to do a good inventory. So the other thing I'm going to show you, besides that, during cataloging lists, scanning stuff that's connected to my computer, I'm also going to show you how using Inventory Manager, I can use my tablet. This is a little Acer tablet with a USB port that I plug my barcode wand into. How I can use it to go out in the collection and gather object ID numbers. You can see this list of object ID numbers as a text file. And once again, you don't need this high-tech technology. If you just wanted to take a little netbook or some other digital device that would allow you to just type in numbers, as long as it can be saved as a text file, just like my laptop or my tablet is doing here, it will let you generate a list. So when we get to the place where we're talking about importing lists, I want you to visualize this picture because that's the way I generated that list. That list, when I finished it from my tablet, I emailed it to myself. It's called photos.dat, and that's what it looks like when you look at it in Notepad. All right, so that's the end of our slideshow presentation. Let me try to get out of this thing. All right, so we should be able to hear me. For those who came in late, we have a YouTube channel. It's PastPerfect Software. And we have a Facebook page. It's also PastPerfect Software. Good things to be involved with. All right, let me close out of Internet Explorer. Sorry, that's Google Chrome, I guess. And we'll be at the PastPerfect Software. All right, so my examples. Let's start with Quick Find. Now, Quick Find is an option that we put on the main page of PastPerfect version 5 after we started adding the inventory module to PastPerfect 5. So if you're at a really early version of PastPerfect 5, you may not have Quick Find. You need to update. And if you contact the support office, we'll be happy to help you update if you can't follow the instructions from the web to do it yourself. With this Quick Find button, if you click on it, it's a quick and easy way to get into a catalog record. So I have a number of photographs here sitting on my desk that are part of our PastPerfect sample collection. So I'm going to type in one of them, so 2003.3.3. Now this is a photograph. I'm just going to click Find here. This is a photograph, so it was pretty easy to know that I was supposed to go into my Photos data table in order to see this photograph. But if I had something that could have maybe fallen in Photographs or Archives and I wasn't sure where it was cataloged, this looks across all 4 catalogs. So if I click on Exit here, I'm going to use that barcode scanner now. You should hear a beep in the background in just a second. I'm going to scan it. That's it. So it typed it in for me and immediately jumped over to this photograph, which I have. Go ahead and hit Escape here and hit Quick Find again. do scan another item, and I'm at another photograph. So when I'm on this photograph, I want to show you where the inventory information is. So under the location button, and this is the same in all 4 catalogs, under the location button on the sidebar, I have a last inventory date and an inventoried by field. And if I wanted to update that information, I would just simply go to Edit, put my cursor in here. For those who've watched other webinars before, you probably already know this trick. If you hit F8 on your keyboard, it gives you today's date. Now, if this isn't working in your software, I think we have a knowledge base article about it, but give me a call. It just means that we have to help you program your function keys. And then inventoried by, I could type my name in here, but I can see that I have an authority file icon. This thing in the upper right-hand corner here is the authority file icon, which allows me to hit F7 to get into my authority file and select my name. Now, my name's not here, so I'm going to go ahead and type it in. So I hit that plus sign, then Gomez, Brian L, and then hit Enter. All right? So now you can see my name on the list. When I double-click on it, it will bring my name into inventory by. Now, you might say, well, you know, it's just easier if I just type my initials. Don't be tempted to shortcut. Use full names and use your usernames based on your authority file so that we have better ways of reporting later. We can tell all of the things that Brian Gomez inventoried 10 years from now because it's consistent data entry. When I hit Save here, that information is saved with the record. There's a little folder next to it that shows that I did an inventory history for this item. So if I go in and do it again, let's go ahead and click on Edit, and I'll have, this time I'll have Mary Parr do the inventory and save. If we take a look at that folder icon, you'll see Mary inventoried at 1217 and Brian inventoried it at 1217. Right? And over time, this inventory will fill. Quick question on the question board. Diana asks if this applies to version 4. Some of these features do. Quick Find is not one of them, and inventory history is not one of them. In version 4, we only have the inventory date and inventory by. There's no inventory history. So back to version 5 now. So I'm going to close back out to the main menu of PastPerfect again. So that's how we use Quick Find. Type in our object ID, and then once we go to that record, we can click on Edit and change the ID number. I'm sorry, we can go to Edit and change the inventory date and inventory by. So that's sort of the slow way to do things. And that's when things are going to take 15 to 20 seconds per record by the time you hit Edit and all of those other things. So how can we speed up this process? Well, one way to speed up this process is to use your catalog lists. So if I look here under Research, I have this catalog list button, and this is another feature that is version 5 specific. Catalog lists allow you to put many types or many items from your collection onto a list, whether you're getting ready to prepare for an exhibit or you're trying to do research for someone and send them a PDF. You can get all of these items that may or may not be logically related to all show up on one list. And then you can interact with that list, whether you're printing, emailing, or doing something like that. So for this one, I'm going to go into my inventory control, and I'm going to create a new list. And let's say I want to generate a list of all of the items that haven't been inventoried since 2010. Inventory less than 2010. Just quick shorthand, you can actually type this out. This is not a filter statement. This is just a title. So I'm going to click on OK. And then once I have that inventory less than 2010, I could go add the records manually or add the records by a query. So I'm going to go and run a query real quick. So inventory date less than, and since I'm looking for anything less than 2010, I'm going to go with 01/01/2010. So that'll get me anything inventoried on December 31st of 2009 and earlier. So add to statement and run query to select records. Once I've got that, you can see I have 81 matching records here, and I'm going to add selected catalog records to my list. Click on yes, and it builds that list for me. So now underneath that inventory folder in the lists area, I'm going to close back out here so you can see it, I have this inventory 2010, 81 items on that list. So I could generate a printout of those items to go find them in my collection. But let's take the other way here. We have a lot of items in our collection, and we want to create a list of them and then update them all at once. So let me do that. Let me do create a new list, and we're going to call this Photos on Brian's Desk. All right, a little bit silly here, but I want to try to keep spatial relationship for you. So Photos on Brian's Desk, and then I'm going to click on Add Records to List Manually. Now, I can go in and type these in, so 2003.4.1, and hit Enter. So it's been added to the list. List now has one record. And you notice that automatically went away. We kind of built that in there to make it so that your barcoding works better. So I just scanned another item, makes that go away again, and then scanning another item. Again, this is the same as if I was typing in these object IDs. So if you can bring your computer to where the collection is, or your collection to where the computer is, you can put these things in live into a list that you can then update. All right, so I now have 6 items in on my list. So I'm going to close from here, and you'll see Photos on Brian's Desk is up to 6. So now I want to update all of those, the records on that list. If I double click on it, I have a button down here at the bottom, and this is only available when you have the inventory manager, Mark as Inventoried. So if I click on Marked as Inventoried, I put in the date and then say who it was inventoried by, click on OK. It should change the inventory date on all those records and add that information to the history, add whatever's in it previously to the history. All right? So let's go out and we'll take a look at one of those items to make sure that it did get updated. All right, so I have one of the items in my hand. I'm going to click on Quick Find again, scan it. And this is one of the items I just did the scanning for. I'm going to click on Location, and here it is. It was updated today by me. Magic. All right, so that is the using catalog lists to build a list of items, either items to go find or recording items that were found that we need to update all at one time. So what we're working toward here is trying to speed things up, right? So that first time we had to go in Quick Find and do each thing automatically. Now we did catalog lists, which allow us to put all of the items onto one list and then modify it. Modify all those records at one time with this Mark as Inventoried or even a global change. That's one of the beautiful things about these catalog lists. If you are getting all of the items out of storage locker number 1 and putting them all in storage locker number 2, you could go through, create a list of all the items that are on, in this case, Brian's desk, and then once you're in there, change the location to a new location. All right? So this is useful for more than just the inventory. You can do it to help with global updates on artifact moves when you're moving an entire box from one shelf to another, an entire closet from one place to another, an entire building to storage. This function is pretty robust. All right, there's lots of great questions on the question board. I'm going to try to hold off to the end to get to as many of them as I can. So this is creating a list manually through the software. So let's talk a little bit about Inventory Manager and then what it will do. Because the catalog list is available in the basic program. If you buy the Inventory Manager, what will it add? I showed that picture of my tablet and generating that DAT table or text table. It's no mystery here. You could just open up Notepad and do it. I showed that notepad on the tablet, when I emailed it to myself, it was called photos.dat, and then I saved it on my hard drive, on just the C drive, so it's easy to find for this webinar. I'm going to click on the Inventory Manager button here, and you're going to see two choices down at the bottom. One is Create an Inventory List, which we'll do next, but what I want to do first is Import List. So if I click on Import List, it gives me some warnings here what I'm supposed to do, and I click on, I want to make sure I'm going to preview the list first, and then Import List Now. It's asking me to navigate to the place where that list has been saved, and I told you I saved it to my C drive, and it's down here called photos.dat. And there it is. Now, I did gather this with a barcode scanner, and as you look down this list, I've hit a couple of items twice, like for instance this one here and this one here. No harm, no foul. PastPerfect can only put the item on the list once, so no big deal. But I also had a typo up here that I purposely put in, 2000.1.4, 2008.9.10. Like, I forgot to put in a carriage return in between them so we could see what happens. You'll also notice that many of my items don't have leading zeros, but some of them do. And these are old labels that we don't use leading zeros at our organization anymore. So in PastPerfect, those items probably aren't going to match our real items. So if I click on Import, it tells me that it imported 18 items and that there are 6 items that it could not find in the catalog records. Do I want to view that list? I'm going to click on Yes. And indeed, you'll see the leading zeros are a problem. This 2009.11 is a problem. And this one that was a typo is also a problem. So I'm going to save this as a text file, and it's automatically going to rename my original. It's going to use my original file name and then also add a not found extension to it, so we can go reconcile these 5 items later. So I'm going to click on OK, and then Close. And now if I take a look, I believe we have a photos file here. So it used that the file name from my C drive, and it has 18 items on it. So now I want to take and inventory all of those items. So I double click on it, and then go down to Mark Inventoried, and again, F7 to get into my authority file, and double click on my name. So once I've got my 18 items inventoried, I can move on to the next project. Now, if you're trying to record all of the things that are on one shelf, and you want to make sure that your location histories are updated and those things, you're going to want to create one text file for each shelf. If you're just looking to do inventory date, you go in and you scan all of the items in the room, name it by the room, and then import it and work out the reconciliation. Nikki, I was just looking at the questions. Nikki asked a great question. That updates who and when, but it doesn't update the location on your desk. Nikki, by design, I did not want to update the location to say that these items were at my desk. I don't really need that fidelity to the history. So even though I might be taking the box of photographs out of that storage area, bringing it to my desk, scanning all of them at my computer, and then closing the box and taking it back to the storage area, I don't necessarily need to record that movement if it's not important to my organization. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. All right. So that's importing an item list. Now, I said that you don't need to have any fancy equipment in order to do this. You don't have to have even the barcode scanner and the barcode upgrade for PastPerfect. If you want to do a similar import, all you have to do is open up a notepad document like this and start putting in the object IDs just like this. All right? And that import feature will read this the same way it would have read my photos.dat that I did. All right, another question on the question board was about the about memberships. Will that work as well? we have not built this into the membership module yet, though if you type in a number like 17 into the quick find, it will bounce you over to contacts and show you contact number 17. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about with Inventory Manager is this create inventory list. Now, for those of you who have less than 75% of your collection in PastPerfect and need to do a everything under the roof type inventory, it's going to behoove you, instead of creating lists, to go out and gather object ID numbers. For those of you who have most of your stuff in PastPerfect, it might be better for you to start from a list and then have people go account for the items. Both are going to be beneficial in two different ways, obviously. The database, if it's up to date and accurate, says what you're supposed to have, and if you can't find it in your collection, it's missing. And all of the stuff that was recorded on a piece of paper that's under the roof, if it's not in PastPerfect, then you know what cataloging work you need to do, or at least trying to figure out where did that item come from. So now we're going to go through the creating an inventory list process. So create inventory list here from the PastPerfect Inventory Manager. There's a number of criteria here that you can select from. You can select if you only want to do objects and photos, take the check marks out of archives and library. You might want to only do the status of the items that are supposed to be okay. Or maybe you're only going to do a certain location. I'm sorry, a certain collection. Other options here are only items that are in certain locations, where you can select which location you want to generate a list for. We're dealing with demo data, so I'm going to keep everything pretty wide open so you can see it on the screen. You can set exclusions. If you don't want it to show items that are out on loan, put a check mark in. If you don't want it to show items that are part of an incoming loan, check mark. Items that are on exhibit, check mark. Or if you already know the item is missing, then maybe you don't want the status to be, if the status is missing, you don't want to include those items. And then you have your sampling criteria. Do you want all items that meet the criteria above? Do you want just a percentage of them based on some random sampling? Would you like a fixed number? Are you responsible for doing 100 items per month? Or do you want all items that haven't been inventoried since that earlier inventory date, so from 2009? So that first example I showed you where you generated a list of everything that was 2009 and before, you can do it easier with Inventory Manager by simply putting a check mark here and putting in the date that you're concerned about. So we're going to do all items and then create list now. So a new catalog list was created with 91 records. Well, where is it? Well, it bounces you right back over to the Catalog List Manager, where you can see the date and time that it was generated and the 91 items that were put on that list. All right, so I'm going to double-click on that list, and I have options down here at the bottom left for printing the inventory worksheet. If I click on Print Inventory Worksheet, I have 3 different options. Let me preview all 3 of them for you. One is the inventory checklist. Pretty simple. Object ID, object name, and then a little checkbox where you can fill in the information about whether or not you found the item. If you did find it in a different location than what it was supposed to be in, you can put a notes here. Just pretty simple. Also recording who the person is that is doing the inventory and the date. There's also a little bit more, inventory checklist with images. Oh, just for reference, that first one I showed you, it was using, I think it was 30-some records per page. So if you're printing out a 3,000 piece list for inventory, you're going to need roughly 100 pages. This one uses even more paper and ink, but it has a nice photograph of the item, so it's easier to do the inventory. You can see the item there, as well as the place that it's supposed to be stored in, so that if you find it someplace else, you can record that information and how it's changed. And then last, there is a inventory full worksheet. If you preview this, it's just a lot more information. This all of these reports can be modified to include fields that are common to all 4 catalogs. So if you also wanted to have notes in here, this one already has description, but if you wanted to have information about who the artist was or something like that, you certainly can add those fields to the report. We have a reports training class coming up in a week or so, so if you need some extra reports training, get signed up for that class. All right, so that is the selecting the report. So you can generate any number of inventory lists that you'd like. You can see here that we've got 4 of them right now that are these randomly generated lists with varying numbers of items on them. You could remove them from the list as their inventory, so you can see what we still need to go find. And here's the way you do that. So right now this list is locked. And what that means is, if you read down here, records cannot be added to or deleted from the list that is locked. So I need to unlock the list in order to be able to remove records. So I'm going to hit Save here. And then I'm going to go into my list, find one of the items that I just inventoried. We'll do this projectile point. Go in here to Location. Make my changes. So Edit, F8, and then F7, double-click on my name, and save. And then where it says Lists, I can remove my item from the list that I'm working on. All right? So click on that, and then click on the X. All right, so that's removing items. All right, so what we find with most organizations here at the PastPerfect Support Office is that doing an inventory is just way too massive of a project for them to actually get done. And the numbers that you all gave me at the start of this webinar sort of support that you're just not able to get the inventory done. I hope that some of these tools will help speed things along, but I'm also hoping that you'll sort of change your philosophy on how an inventory has to be done and maybe look at other options, whether it's to do random sampling, process inventory, or other tools like splitting your inventory down into 3 years instead of trying to do it all in one. And I'm hopeful that those things will be helpful. We'll start the question and answer period. For those who need to move on, just know that you're going to get a quick survey to fill out by email. I appreciate your feedback. You can always give me feedback directly, brian@museumsoftware.com. I really appreciate it. We keep doing these webinars, and they keep getting more and more attendance, which is great. The next one we're looking at probably in March will be about getting your collection online. All right, so without any further ado, let's start working our way through the questions. So several people said that, yeah, they do have all of their items cataloged, but most of it is in hard copy or that it's not in PastPerfect yet. I understand. There's a lot of people in that same boat where they've got either catalog cards or ledgers or other things that still need to be entered into PastPerfect. The sooner the basic information of object ID, object name, description, and home location, the sooner you get those 4 fields into PastPerfect, the sooner your inventory is going to get a lot easier. Michelle asks, if inventory takes so long, why would we want to do it? Well, Michelle, most of us are required to do it, either by our governing organization, some governmental body, or by our mean director who just thinks we need to be more accountable for our stuff. But in any case, inventory is something that most organizations find is a necessity, whether it's in their bylaws or something. Mary, the inventory history, I'll have to look at it, but the inventory history may be part of the inventory module, the inventory manager module. I can't quite remember if that button and that data table are enabled only when the inventory manager is installed or not. If you have trouble figuring it out, let me know and I'll take a look. If you want to play around with this inventory manager, our evaluation copy has it built in. And we just uploaded a new copy of the evaluation to our website. But if you need help installing it, please call our support office. We'll help you install it and test it out and see what you think. Ray asked, how do I generate an inventory specific to each container or box? I think I showed how to do that once we got to the inventory manager area, but let me show you another way under catalog lists. I'm going to just go into Curator's Research and create a new list here called, I actually don't know in this data if box 2 is going to be legit or not, but let's try it. So I created a new list called box 2, and now I'm going to add records to that list by query. So my field is going to be home location box, or home location container in this case, and begins with box 2. I'm going to add the statement and run query to select records. Yeah, of course. I don't have any records in my database that have box 2 in them. But that's how you would generate the list. You just need to know what your box name is, where it's recorded in your software, and then you can put in this query to say that's what you're looking for. So, and then once you've got those records selected by the query, you use this button here to add selected catalog records to the list. Hopefully that's helpful on creating that. The Research and Reports CD tells how to do a lot of this stuff. If you don't have the training CD for research and reporting, we're actually modifying it now to include some new chapters, but it's another great resource for creating these lists. Michelle says she wants one. I will assume that you are talking about the tablet and barcode wand. It's a pretty cool rig. Many tablets do not come with a USB port. So if you're in the market for a tablet, whether it's an iPad or anything else, you want to make sure that it has a USB port that you can plug a full-size keyboard into, or a device like that barcode wand. There's other technology out there that allows you to like Bluetooth barcode wands and things like that, but the expense of doesn't seem worth it to me, and it's also one more thing that can go wrong. So if you're in the market for a tablet, I highly recommend looking for one that has a USB port that you can plug a barcode wand into. All right, again, great questions coming in, guys. Thanks everyone for coming today. I really appreciate it. If you had a scanner that holds the data, is there another way to get the inventory? If you have a more complex or a more sophisticated scanning device, a company called WASP and a bunch of others out there have created these devices. You just take them out and they create these tables of data that you're doing your inventory with. It really depends on the output of that device. That if you can save the file that's created as a text file, or you can convert it over to a text file that just has those carriage returns, certainly you can import it as part of our inventory manager. I talked about memberships. If you do a quick find, and we'll just do a quick find for 1, and then we should become to, a contact ID number 1, which is Rick Hilton. So the way that quick find works in the contacts is if you have a number 17 or number 33, it will look up that ID number for contacts. So it's not really smart enough to, if you've numbered your artifacts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you've numbered your contacts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe the precedent goes to collections. It doesn't know to what to look for. So if it doesn't find the number in objects, it goes to photos, goes to library, goes to archives, and if it doesn't find any of it there, then it goes to contacts. Yeah, Doris and Nikki, I think I answered the question about the changing the location information. If we did want to change the location information, let me show you that real quick. If we did want to change the location information to Brian's desk for all of those items, I'm going to go back into my contact list and photos on Brian's desk. So I'm going to go into that list. Once I'm in that list, I can click on Change Location. And let's say this is just temporary. So for all of these records, I'm going to fill in the new temporary location either with blank or, so I'm going to do PastPerfect Office. I should be using my authority files here, but I didn't really plan for this, so it's not in the database. Room, Brian's office, wall, cabinet, shelf, drawer, container, Brian's. A little bit silly here, but you get the point, I hope. And I'm going to remember, because I don't want to have to go back and inventory these things again. I want this to be part of my process inventory. I'm going to update that inventory information and say change locations. You're about to change the location of all entries for all 6 records on this list. Are you ready? Yes. Do you want to save the previous home locations in the location history file? Yes. All right, so once that's done, let me take one of these items off of my desk here, and we'll go and we'll look it up. So again, just to show Quick Find, I'll go back out. I'll click on Quick Find, scan my item, takes it there. If I take a look at location, here it is. Building, PastPerfect office, room, Brian's office, container, Brian's desk. So if it was important that you track things over to your desk and then back into storage, that's how you could do it. All right. Yeah, Carrie, I probably didn't do a good enough job of saying where the differences are between inventory and between PastPerfect Basic and then the Inventory Manager add-on. But in general, the Inventory Manager add-on, the features that are available with it are this Import List and Create Inventory List button. And maybe, and I believe this is true, underneath the location, you may not have this button to see the location or the inventory history if you don't have the Inventory Manager. Can Notepad list be imported into the catalog list? Yes, Notepad is, it was my second example there. Great question. And again, if you're a little more technical about this, there is one sort of nuance to different types of data processing. With Windows and with FoxPro, we use carriage return line feeds. And in the old typewriter days, that's when you used to press the handle and the thing would spin a little bit and go back over to the right-hand side so you can start typing again. Some software packages don't use both characters, the carriage return and the line feed, so you sometimes have to change a setting. Let me put up here on the screen so you can have it. I found, let's see, it's JOTA+. If you're looking for a text editor, let's see if I can format font, increase that so people can see it. If you're looking for a text editor for your smartphone or your tablet, I just found this. They pronounce it IOTA+. It's a pretty cool little device that allows me to record things like object IDs. And then there's a share file button that allows me to then put it on Facebook or send it by email, text message, or anything else. The nice thing about it is I can choose what those line breaks are, whether they're carriage return line feeds or just line feeds or just carriage returns, and I choose the carriage return line feed, which is why it works so well for me. There are other software packages out there that are part of these apps on smaller devices. They'll do the same exact thing. I just haven't had a chance to play with them all yet, and IOTA is one that I just recently started using, and I kind of like it. So Karen asks, what are the first steps when beginning from scratch? Good question. It really depends on the state of your collection. If your requirement, if your mandate is to make sure that you inventory your entire collection periodically, whatever that period is, you might be told that it has to be every year, it might be every 3 years, every 10 years, then it's probably most important that you go get a list of the artifacts. If you don't have anything cataloged in PastPerfect and all you have is a warehouse full of stuff, it's important to get a list of those object IDs. Now, if you've been to my trainings before, I've always said that it's more important to have a number on an item than to figure out all of the information about that item. By putting an FIC, a found in collection item, a number on an item, it now gives you something to reference back to, whether it's on database or paper. So I say getting numbers on the artifacts and then recording all of those numbers as well as where they are found is probably the first place to begin. Price of inventory manager. You know, I probably should have that in my head, but I apologize. There's not that much left in my head right now. So let me go here and go to museumsoftware.com. And once I get to museumsoftware.com, I can go to purchase and pricing. Or if you want to learn more, you can go to products and then new inventory manager. All right. And people who are watching this as a recording later on, you may see that our homepage has changed. We're just getting ready to redo our website after a number of years of letting it go. All right, so here we are at the inventory manager. The AASLH price for that product is $236. And like I said, it does include the barcode printing module, so you don't have to buy that separately. These barcode wands, you can find them on Google or Amazon or any place. I've seen them as low as in the high teens for dollars, like $18, $19. The only one I'll recommend that you don't buy is a pen-type wand, and instead use a device like this one, this sort of push-button, trigger-happy sort of device, not a wand that's always red and you swipe it across your artifact. Two reasons: you don't want to wear out the barcode, and the second one is they're just not as reliable. So go with the trigger type if at all possible. Adam asks if there's any way to eliminate leading zeros in object ID numbers and accession numbers. My standard canned response on this is if your artifacts have leading zeros, then your database should have leading zeros. If your artifacts do not have leading zeros and your database does, then we should talk and figure out a strategy for how to clean up your data. I can do it with some custom programming. It's not that big of a deal, but it's something we have to be careful of as we do. So Adam, if you want to get in touch with me about that anytime, I'd be happy to help. This webinar is born out of a conference, a presentation I'm giving next week in Ocean City, Maryland at the Small Museum Association. There'll be more about doing inventory than just the PastPerfect side, but hopefully this is a good lead-in for you guys. Yeah, Doris asked about, is there a report that can give me all of the box? Hopefully, Doris, I've answered that already, but if you're still confused about it, put it back in and I'll answer it again at the end. Kathy asked, say again about the basic information needed to entering records into PastPerfect. Kathy, the basic information that PastPerfect really needs to be somewhat functional is an object ID number, an object name, a description, which is really more for the human being and not so much for the computer, and a location. Where is that item? And you think about it, it makes perfect sense. How am I going to know that item when I find it? You might have 50,000 figurines in your collection. How are you going to know it's this one? Well, it has to have a number on it. But if you don't know it's called a figurine, you don't even know what you're looking for. So you need the name and the object ID. The description helps further amplify the name, and then where should it be located is home location. So we know where to go back and find it. So object IDs are really important, even if they're temporary object IDs, like 2013.FIC found in collection.1. There was a report webinar that went into some pretty high-level report stuff last week, or a couple weeks ago, I guess now. It is recorded at our YouTube channel. You can watch that one. It talks about data grouping. The reports webinar that is for basic reports training is, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I believe it's the last week of February. Let's take a look. I think it actually is here on the website. So we'll go to, let's see, resources, newsletter. And if we take a look at the February newsletter, if you don't receive our newsletter, please contact our support office and sign up, or you can sign up right from our website. So there it is, Research and Reports Training Class. It's February 27th and 28th, 10 to 1. And if you want to get signed up for that, I think there are a few seats left, but not very many. So if you want to get signed up now. Glenn says he had trouble connecting and missed part of the webinar. Glenn, the webinar is recorded or is being recorded and will be posted at our YouTube channel probably later today, maybe tomorrow. So if you have trouble finding that, contact me, Brian, B-R-I-A-N, museumsoftware.com. I'll put my contact information up here at the end. Marianne writes, so if I have a session book, should we do the initial process from those books and then update when we go to the object? The nice thing about a session books is that it lets you sit down at a desk and do data entry as opposed to constantly running back and forth between storage areas or carrying artifacts back and forth. So by all means, if you can do some data entry from your session books to get the record started in PastPerfect, it's a good idea. Nikki asked a great question about, can she change the name of the location fields for PastPerfect? So like, for instance, right now we have wall, shelf, room, cabinet. In version 5, Nikki, you can do this. I'm not sure if it's in our knowledge base or not. I'm also not sure if it's in the manual or not. But if you have trouble finding how to do that, contact the support office. One word of warning, though. If many of your comrades at your organization have been using drawer appropriately, but you don't think you need it anymore, and you rename it trunk, or maybe you rename it shelving unit or something like that, it's not going to change the data that's in there, but it's going to be really confusing when we look at it, because people are going to be looking for drawer number 3, and you have changed everything to shelving unit, and so it's going to say shelving unit number 3. So be careful if you've already done data entry into these fields if you're going to decide to rename them. Janice asks, where do you start if you haven't used the program yet? Janice, best way to get started with PastPerfect if you haven't used it yet is to download the evaluation and just start playing around. A lot of it is intuitive. You're going to click on add buttons to add records and things like that. Once you've got the eval and you feel like, I really just need some more formal training on this, the free way is to watch each of the webinars, but they're not comprehensive. They're not going to go through everything. The next closest thing to free way is the training CDs. And the training CDs can be purchased either through our online store, or you can call and we'll take your order over the phone for it. You can learn more about the training CDs if you go to Services and then Training. And you can see the training CD prices here. We sell the set of all 3 training CDs, cataloging your collections, managing contacts, and research and reporting for $119. And then it even comes with an extra user's guide. And I believe that's free shipping, too, if I remember. Yeah, free shipping. Great. And the inventory sheets, the inventory report printouts, I believe they are only available with the inventory manager. Generating those inventory sheets would be possible through a number of other ways. So if you understand reports and reporting, you could generate a report that looks somewhat like it pretty easily. So you have a report maker still, but those customized reports that are for Inventory Manager would not be available unless you have that upgrade. Oh, Heather, great question. Heather asks, aren't there apps for barcode reading? There are great apps out there for barcode reading. For those of you who are using your smartphones to scan QR codes and other things, you'll see that there are great camera apps out there that allow you to scan a barcode and get that into your phone without having to buy one of these other devices. That said, compared to these other devices, they're way slower, and their interface with things like a notepad is not nearly as good, at least not that I've found so far. I tried using my camera because I wanted to show you how to do this for free, if at all possible, and I could not find an app where I could scan a barcode and it would just put that into a text file, and then scan another barcode and it would go into another text file. I could do one record at a time, but it ended up taking way, way longer than if I just manually typed into a keyboard. So I haven't found one that's great yet. I do like these external barcode readers. They're fast and they're accurate. Nikki asks if the quick find will only work by object ID or will it work by a session number. Nikki, the reason it will only work by object ID and not a session number is because a session number is not unique to each record. Object IDs are unique to each record, and a session number, you could type that in there and you'd get to one item of that maybe 7,000 piece of session. So it would be less useful. So it only does a find by object ID number. That's quick find. You can still do queries and other things by a session number if you want. All right, so I'm going to take you back to the product information page for barcode printing, and then product information page for inventory manager. Again, that barcode printing upgrade is part of the inventory manager. So next question. Sharon asks, when first entering any information into PastPerfect, should you start with the contacts lists before entering the actual donations? Sharon, good question. It's always best to put information in once and then use it over and over again. So for the case of a human being, you put them once into contacts, and then you can record their donations, their dues, and their accessions, maybe their incoming loans, all those other things, without having to retype their contact information. So a good place to start is always with contacts. Is there a way to return a group of records from catalog list to their home location? I believe so. Let's take a look. So once I'm in catalog list, so Brian's desk, if we then, let's see, double click on it, and then go to change location. So you do it the same way here, where you then would clear out the temporary location information, and that would take the item off of temporary location and return it to whatever its home location is. Be careful, you don't want to check these because it would also replace your home locations with empty fields. So in order to return everything back to its home location that's on this list, you'd have it look exactly like that, and then change locations. All right. So just so we can see a change here, I'm going to put this into the future. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow, everyone. F7, take Rick Hilton this time, and then change. All right. So I'm going to exit back out and take a look at one of these records. Actually, I can do it right from here. Look at my location, and you can see that my location for Brian's desk is now missing, and the home location is filled in. All right, next. All right, we're running overtime here. Again, thank you everyone for coming. I'll continue to work my way through the questions here. I'm happy to help any way I can. If you'd like to contact me afterwards, it's brian@museumsoftware.com. Yeah, Nikki's question, or amplification to her question, was that she wants to know changing the default name so that cabinet can become column, because I do not use cabinets. And the answer is yes, Nikki, that you can rename the cabinet to column. Maybe we should talk after class to make sure we're both on the same wavelength. Feel free to give me a call or send me an email. So Michelle asked the same question about returning items. I hope that helped, Michelle. Yeah. Nikki, great question about the leading zeros. As I'm sure you recognize, technology keeps marching on, and Nikki's pointing out that they were advised to add leading zeros back when they converted in 2000. Why would they take them away? Back in 2000, the technology did not allow us to sort correctly without leading zeros. It was really tricky to figure out how to do it, but we finally cracked it, and we have sorting that does not need leading zeros to sort correctly. The sorting problem is based on what we think of as an object ID number is not a number at all. It has 2 decimal places, so by definition it's impossible. It can't be a number. Sorting things numerically versus alphabetically makes a big difference. And one of the ways that we kind of got around this is we have an algorithm that goes in and sort of creates those leading zeros on the fly. You don't see them, but it allows us to sort correctly. So that's why some organizations, even though their artifacts have never had leading zeros, they still would like to, they would like to make it so that their database also doesn't have leading zeros. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. All right. YouTube channel is youtube.com/PastPerfectSoftware.com. I'm sorry. It's not right. Let me go back and show it to you because I'll forget if I don't. So it's going to be YouTube. There it is. That's not right. PastPerfect Software. There it is. So youtube.com/PastPerfectSoftware. Elizabeth has left, but I'll answer her question anyway. Is there an import feature that allows you to transfer data quickly from a different database? There are import features in PastPerfect, but you want to talk to us in the support office before you start playing around with it. There's lots of things that can go wrong here, and you end up with triplicate or quadruple data, and it can be complicated. And it's made complicated because there's so many different formats out there that you can import from, and we have no idea what your data looks like, so we can't really advise. So Elizabeth, if you are still hearing this, please contact us and I'll help you figure it out. Jan asks, can you print barcode labels from the PastPerfect software? Absolutely. If you have the barcode upgrade or the inventory manager and you want to print barcode labels, it's really easy. You can do it one at a time by going into your catalog records, clicking on print, and then clicking on barcode labels. When you do this, it will print a label on your Avery 5160 sheet, or you can modify it if you need to. If you want to print them in bulk, print a lot of barcode labels, maybe for a certain shelf list or something, you can go back to your catalog lists. So for instance, we'll go back to photos on Brian's desk. If I double click on that and then go to print list, I have the option here to print my barcode labels. And let's take a look. There it is. So those are barcode labels for all of the items that are on my desk. Sharon asks about Lucy. Lucy is doing fine. She has not barked today, which is a little bit uncommon, actually. Usually somebody comes in and makes her bark. For those who don't know, Lucy's the office dog here at PastPerfect. Adam asks if there is a way to make quick find not ignore the characters that come after the object ID. So if you have an A and a B. Adam, unfortunately there's not. This is an exactly matches, not a begins with statement. So, so there's really not a way to do it and have it work the way we want it to work, which is only taking you to one record. We have to keep it unique if we're going to arrive at one record. And that's the tricky part with this quick find. All right, I think I've got everyone's question on the question board answered. Let me say again, thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate the feedback, so please send it to me any way you so desire, and I'll catch you at the next webinar, hopefully. Thanks everyone for coming, and have a great day.